Hey guys, Paul here from Team APS, and 2019 is coming to a close, which of course means that it would probably make a lot of sense to do a best and worst parts of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2019. I've seen a lot of other people do this, and so I thought I would contribute my own thoughts. These are some of the things that I really loved about this game this past year, and some of the things that maybe could use a bit of improving. Alright, so we're going to start on a positive note with some of the good things that I really liked. The first being the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Formats that were introduced. So we got speed duels, which I think was really cool. It started off really slow, but it has taken off somewhat over the last few months. We've gotten, I think, 4 expansion sets now actually, and that's really cool. We've also gotten their own tournament packs, we've gotten custom playmats. I think that speed duels are a lot of fun. It's something that is really easy to appreciate for an older player that's maybe trying to get into the game, or even a younger player that wants to learn how to play, because you don't have to worry about Master Rule 4 and all of its link monsters and just all the extra deck spam in general. The game is much slower paced, it's much simpler, the strategies feel a lot more honest, and it's actually a pretty fun format in its own right. I think the thing I like the most about it, besides just the simplified deck building part, is that it does actually hold up to the name, speed duels, because if you just want to get in a few quick rounds with your friends, it's very easy to throw a deck together and play a full match in like 15 minutes, as opposed to Yu-Gi-Oh! And its sometimes infamous 10-minute long turns. This is really quick and really easy and really fun, and for the most part, it's actually really inexpensive too. And there's also 3v3 duels, which have existed before now, but it's the first time that we got a full event dedicated to them, being YCS Atlanta. I know that Konami is actually going to be doing this again at YCS Vegas next year. It's a fun format, I really like it. Playing with your friends, it's just exciting, it's a little different. The games don't feel as, you know, angry or lonely or hopeless or salty as they do in just a single kind of 1v1 thing. You can help your partners out, and it overall just works really smoothly. They even updated tag rules recently, so I'm interested in seeing if that will become a YCS next year. The second exciting, good, positive thing is that we've gotten some very diverse formats this year. This comes with a bit of a caveat later, but we've seen the rise of rogue decks in a really big way. I never thought that I would see things like Magical Musketeers and Madolche and Infernoids all topping events, like all sometimes within the same format. I think that's crazy, and it really bodes well for people who do want to build decks that aren't necessarily the tip top of the iceberg and still be able to go to a YCS or a regional or a Pro Play Games tour and, you know, play and actually do well, and these decks aren't just scoffed at for being like, oh, it's a one-trick pony, because a lot of these things have happened multiple times. We've seen a lot of different decks break into the established sort of metagame and make an impact, and I think that is a very good thing, and it speaks to the fact that the game is actually pretty well balanced right now. Another really cool thing that I liked this year is the reprint sets. This is something that I don't think anybody can really complain about. We got Dual Power, we got Battles of Legend, Heroes Revenge, we got the Gold Sark Tins, and we got Dual Devastator, and each of these products in their own way, like, did a great job for reducing the price of the game. Borrelsword Dragon was like $80 at the beginning of the year. It's crazy to think that it's basically a tenth of that price now. It's just crazy to think that the danger monsters that were like $50 at the beginning of the year for things like Nessie and that type of stuff, you know, Tsuchinoko, now like, you know, just less than $10 each. It's really cool, and it means that people can actually play a lot of the best decks from the past year for very low prices. I think the only caveat to this at all is just that we haven't gotten reprints for things like Phantasme and Pot of Extravagance. That was a bit of a letdown, but I do think that overall Konami has done a wonderful job of making this game more accessible at a better price tag than it's been in years past. And the last good thing this year that I think has kind of gone under the radar is all the merchandise that we've gotten. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Merchandise, for those who don't know, is actually pretty like scarce. It's like few and far in between, but this year we got a number of different things. So the 1988 Gallery Tour, you've probably heard maybe vaguely about it on social media, was basically this thing where a lot of established artists came together and drew different renditions of, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters and monsters and like made them into sellable posters that you could like go and look at or buy. You can buy them online right now. That's crazy because Yu-Gi-Oh's never really had that type of merchandise promoted officially. I mean, we have plenty of fan-made things, but that's really cool. We also got Yu-Gi-Oh! Cereal and chocolate, which was a little bit weird at first, but I mean, it is nice, and we even have more things like Yu-Gi-Oh! Shirts on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Website. and even Yu-Gi-Oh! Halloween costumes that we've actually dressed up in and gone to Walmart in. Check that video out if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Merchandise it's definitely kind of funneling through the pipeline. I hope to see that new Duel Disk and maybe the new Pot of Greed that are being made by Bandai to get released in the United States. That would make it absolutely perfect, but that's for next year. And if you made it this far in the video, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you like this video or you want to see any other types of Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, it would be a great way to keep up with what we're doing. We release a lot of different types of things at a lot of different times, so the best way to make sure you don't miss it is to subscribe. And hitting the bell doesn't hurt either. Okay, so we've got the good out of the way, but now we also have a few negative things. And again, these aren't, complete deal breakers for Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think it's like, these horrible, this game's dying, it's awful, quit now. But things can always be better, so let's talk about it. Number one, the stale metagame. So while yes, we have a game where a lot of rogue decks can compete and do well, the top of the iceberg is still largely the same thing that it was at the beginning of the year. Sky Strikers are going on nearly 2 years of being a top tier deck. Thunder Dragons, Salamandrates, Orcus, they're kind of all just hanging around. And the thing is, they've gotten, chipped away by the ban list over time, but they're still the best decks. And it can just feel a little boring because the new decks that have been coming out have not been strong enough to compete with them. Unfortunately, Marincess, which had a little bit of hype, hasn't really done anything. Unchained, same story. We haven't gotten archetypes that seem like they're strong enough to really take the throne, so if you're a player who likes to play at locals and regionals and compete in tournaments, it can feel a little bit stale, and it looks like it won't be changing too soon since even the Ignisters that come in Ignition Assault don't seem to be like a super top tier threat. We'll see, it depends. We've obviously got still new sets coming out on the horizon, but I do want to see the current crop of top tier decks, Orcists and that type of thing, just maybe, moved out of the way. It might not be enough for just the ban list to do it. We might need new archetypes instead. So that leads into my next point, which is the somewhat lackluster set releases this year. The year started out pretty well. I think Savage Strike and Dark Neostorm were both very good sets. We got things like Phantasme, Pot of Extravagance, Cynet Mining, Dingirsu, really game-changing cards that were worth chasing after. However, since then it's been While the reprint sets were good, the main series sets, things like Rising Rampage and Chaos Impact, have been kind of lackluster, kind of underwhelming. We haven't gotten loads of really powerful cards. Apollousa's good, but not everyone's chomping at the bit to get this card. We have Gizmek Orochi, which is a nice tech in some decks, but it's not like a huge game changer. Chaos Impact has some cool things like, Seyfert, but that's kind of where it stops. And the deck build packs, that is Infinity Chasers and Mystic Fighters and I guess Fist of the Gadgets, they've introduced new archetypes, but like I was saying before, the archetypes haven't managed to really make a dent in the competitive scene. And combined with the next issue I'm going to talk about, they have just ultimately not been worthwhile sets, I think. And yeah, that last thing, the worst thing in my opinion, short prints. I think that this has kind of been the thing that's defined the last couple of years of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's something that really does need to stop. So these deck build sets in particular, I think, are the biggest culprits here. Short prints are a problem. I've made videos about this, I've talked about it. Short prints are not okay. It's not a matter of, is Konami short printing or not. I think that most of us kind of can see for ourselves that the numbers, are there, that these cards are getting short printed. And it really creates an issue because if you take a set like Infinity Chasers or a set like Mystic Fighters, these do have really cool, unique archetypes that I think are very fun to build. And as a Yu-Gi-Tuber, when I make these types of videos where I'm recommending fun decks for people to play, I want to be able to say, yeah, build Witchcrafters. It's unique, it's different, it's interesting, it's really cool. Build Dragon Maids, it's a really nice theme, it works. Generators, Infinitrax, whatever. But there's always a card that's short printed, and it really sucks because when these cards get short printed, it means that they have these price tags of 20, 30, sometimes 40 bucks. And it's not worth getting like a playset of these cards for $100 for a deck that's still not even necessarily going to be competitively viable. Like, would you really want to spend, let's say Witchcrafter Creation, it's about $30. Do you want to spend $90 on Witchcrafter Creation when you know that Witchcrafters can't really even compete at the regional level? And the thing is, these packs are kind of targeted towards casual players, but then like they still have expensive cards, and so there's this big conundrum of weirdness that I just don't really like, and it's something I hope Konami can correct and just really maybe eliminate entirely going into the next year. All in all though, I think that 2019 has been a very good year in Yu-Gi-Oh! I would like to hear what you guys have to say about it. What were your favorite things to come out of this year for the game? What do you hope to see maybe changed, corrected, removed going forward in 2020? Let me know down in the comments. And that's gonna be it for today's video. So yes, be sure to follow us on social media. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I will see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.